Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Canada's committing over $2 billion in funding over the next few years, doubling the size of our contribution to a NATO mission in Latvia. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently to discuss her concerns with the PM's emissions targets. And a Ride for Dad fundraiser is coming up July 22nd. It's an event to raise awareness and funds for prostate cancer research.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is promising to more than double the size of our country's contribution to a NATO mission in Latvia. The PM is committing $2.6 billion in funding over the next few years and up to 2,200 Canadian troops. Around 800 Canadian Armed Forces members are already part of the Canada-led battle group in the Baltic nation, making it our country's largest overseas mission.
And we know that our partners and allies across Europe will be increasing their presence as well. There's, as always, when you're talking about such a large number of diverse nations, challenges, but they are challenges that end up benefiting the work that we're doing, being different countries coming from different perspectives, but demonstrating our capacity not just to work alongside each other, but to actually work together, as is done here in Latvia, is creating many, many opportunities for NATO itself to learn lessons about what we'd be able to do in future situations.
Officials say this is all part of the NATO military alliance's efforts to increase its presence near Russia in response to that country's ongoing assault on Ukraine. The alliance has doubled the number of military personnel in the area since the war first began in February of 2022. There's some controversy involving the United States giving Ukraine cluster bombs in its war with Russia. A reporter from the Associated Press explains why more than 120 countries around the world have banned this weapon.
The munition itself, once it lands on the ground, releases little bomblets that some of them don't explode and can kill or maim children or adults, farmers, civilians, years after a conflict has ended. Russia has been using its own type of cluster munition, and the U.S. has been emphasizing that the munitions that it will provide have a much lower dud rate, that explosive rate that I was talking about, than Russia's do, which may be leaving unexploded munitions all over the Ukrainian battlefield. The dud rate for the munitions that the U.S. will be providing is expected to be less than 2.35%. That means there'll still be unexploded munitions on the Ukrainian battlefield for years to come, likely. But as a provision for providing these weapons, Ukraine has promised not only to track where it's been using them, but to not fire them in densely populated urban areas.
Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari says the cluster bombs, or bunker busters if used, can be considered a war crime.
Here in the United States, rumors were whirling that the Biden administration will, in fact, provide bunker busters to Ukraine. Of course, that ups the ante to a tremendous amount. If you recall, the Biden administration said that Vladimir Putin was using those clusters, and we said that that's a war crime. And now we would be complicit in aiding Ukraine in committing a war crime, if that is how we define a war crime in this instance.
Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari will have more on the war in Ukraine coming up in the second half of our program. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed former POWs back to Ukraine. 5 former prisoners of war left Turkey and returned to their homeland. Officials say the soldiers are commanders who defended the steel plant and Azovstal during the early part of the Russian invasion. It was all part of a prisoner swap with Russia that had previously required the men to stay in Turkey. There was no official explanation from Ankara or Kyiv as to their return to Ukraine. A recent collapse of a dam has added to the hardships facing so many Ukrainian people. Last month, the dam caved in, unleashing water on tens of thousands in southern Ukraine. Christian organization Samaritan's Prayers quickly responded with 40,000 pounds worth of relief supplies for the many families in need. We have more now in this report.
In the midst of the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, one of the largest disasters in recent times is the destruction of the Nova Kakhovka Dam. As that dam was destroyed, the waters flowed out of it and flooded tens of thousands of homes along the way, destroying countless people's houses, destroying infrastructure, ruining agricultural land, and this has just added hardship on top of hardship for those who are already suffering.
На рівень 2 метри 10 сантиметрів, коли піднімався. Звісно, важливо, ви ж бачите, нема нічого. Абсолютно, нігде держати немає. Вон, гаражі лежить, на полу навіть стула немає.
We have come in the name of Jesus because we love them, because God loves them, and they know that they are not forgotten.
Samaritan Purse responded in the same second they heard about it. They provided finances, they provided jugs, boats, fuel, everything that we needed to actually respond as quick as we did by evacuating, by delivering food, by bringing essentials, by delivering water. At this point, as we stand, we delivered over 15,000 liters of water. It's amazing to get together and actually be the hands and feet of Jesus.
В момент, когда поступила вода в дом, это очень тяжелое, понимаете, это не передать словами, ни эмоциями, ничем. Просто это дом уходит под воду. Это страшно на твоих глазах. Помощь сумки Самаряна очень ощутима. Это очень большая поддержка и помощь для нас. Благодарю вас. Аминь.
Yesterday we had an opportunity and we preached the gospel, we prayed with the people, and I seen ladies just kind of, tears were rolling down their eyes because to them we were an answer to our prayers. This is heartbreaking.
We ask that you continue to pray. Pray for the people of Ukraine and pray for Samaritan's Purse as we respond to all of the needs that we see in the name of Jesus.
Incredible devastation in Ukraine. Wow. Well, in our region here in southwestern Alberta, it was another scorcher today. Angela Stewart is now with a quick peek at the forecast. Angela, for those who are praying for rain, prayers may be answered sometime on Tuesday as a low-pressure system is moving into our region?
Yeah, so with that low pressure system actually comes the chance of rain or even a thunderstorm, which is actually the case for our city right now. Lethbridge is under a severe thunderstorm watch. So we're not at a warning yet, just a watch. So keep that in mind tonight. Expected to sit at a low of 13 degrees tonight with that risk of a thunderstorm, like I mentioned. That risk also will carry into tomorrow, so the likelihood of a thunderstorm tomorrow is more. I believe it's about a 60% chance that we will see some rain. 25 the high for tomorrow, expected to sit at a low of 10 degrees for Tuesday. As for how the rest of the week is shaping up, I'll have all those details coming up later on in the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Angela. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith recently sat down with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to discuss the BC port strike and emissions reductions. Premier Smith says there's a lot of evidence proving that our province is doing its part to reduce emissions, but Ottawa also needs to be realistic in its goals.
We also know that an emissions cap or emissions reduction, such as the one that's proposed of 42% by 2030, would also result in essentially a production cap, which we don't think is realistic or feasible as well. And we know that the government had negotiated Article 6 into the Paris Climate Accord, which should allow for us to get a credit here for reducing emissions abroad. And we would like to be able to work with our partner British Columbia and the government in order to be able to reduce emissions and get credit. And of course, they've also said to give us to take away on our request that Parliament be recalled, so that we can put an end to the port strike in BC, which is causing extreme hardship to our producers and our exporters here.
Nice to see the Western attire both the Prime Minister and Premier were wearing. A new Guinness Book of World Records was set on Sunday in Calgary during the Stampede. Officials with the festival say 17,192 pancakes were served in 8 hours, which is a new world record. A judge from Guinness, Brittany Dunn, was in attendance to verify the record over the weekend. The new mark beat the previous record by more than 2,900 flapjacks in just 4 hours. The Stampede, dubbed the greatest outdoor show on earth, continues until July the 16th. A new food rescue organization is officially launched here in Lethbridge. The Leftovers Foundation rescues food from restaurants, grocery stores, and hotels, and then redirects it to social services agencies to dish out to those most in need. Katerina Meyer with the Leftovers Foundation says it's exciting to be able to bring this new initiative to our city.
So this is still very good food, maybe that restaurants or grocery stores just are not able to sell anymore, that we want to redirect into the hands of the most vulnerable. So Leftovers works with a bunch of different service agencies. Some of those do include food banks, but a lot of them include just local service agencies. So we already have a few signed up. We have the stabilization unit, the soup kitchen. We do have the food bank signed up. So once we acquire more donors, we will be able to provide them with food that they can then redistribute.
Meyer says the Leftovers Foundation is currently looking to partner with interested agencies, donors, and volunteer drivers in the Lethbridge region. If you'd like more information on the Leftovers Foundation, you can drop Meyer an email at contactkatarina@foodrescue.ca. Health coalitions from various provinces are calling on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to rein in privatization of healthcare by premiers. The Manitoba Health Coalition, along with the Canadian Health Coalition, are hosting a rally in Winnipeg on Tuesday to raise awareness of the issue and bring advocates together who oppose privatization. Officials say Health Canada reported sanctions of more than $82 million against 8 provinces. The sanctions relate to patient charges for services that should have been accessible to patients at no cost. There appears to be a serious lack of physicians in Milk River, Alberta. Alberta Health Services announced that the emergency department of the town was closed due to a physician shortage, but will reopen again 10 a.m. on Tuesday. AHS says they were able to find more doctors to be able to accommodate. In the past, when the Milk River's emergency department was closed, EMS calls were rerouted to the Raymond Health Centre or the Chinook Regional Hospital here in Lethbridge. Motorcycle riders and classic car enthusiasts in southern Alberta will be going for a cruise as part of the Ride for Dad fundraiser on July the 22nd. The event is raising awareness and funds for prostate cancer research. The goal this year is to raise around $20,000. Video journalist Micah Quinn has that story.
So this year we're hoping to have, like I said, about 50 riders and then about 20 classic cars we anticipate are going to be there.
Mark Anderson, one of the members for the Ride for Dad event, highlighted the routes that each motorcycle and classic car will be taking.
The motorcycles have a ride of about 250 kilometers through Tabor, Hayes, Enchant, and then ending in Coaldale. And then the guys with hot rods and classic cars have the option to either just participate in the show and shine or to do a shortened ride to Tabor and back and then join the show and shine again.
According to the Canadian Cancer Society, on average, 67 men in our country will be diagnosed with prostate cancer every day.
Early detection of prostate cancer in men is so important because it's a slow-growing cancer. There's not a lot of symptoms that go along with it until it's to the point where it's kind of too late. So if we can get people tested early and we get them treated early, it's one of the most survivable cancers. So we don't have to lose our fathers or brothers or ourselves to something that's very treatable in its early stages.
Since 2000, the Ride for Dad initiative has raised over $37 million for the Prostate Cancer Fight Foundation. For more information on the upcoming event, you can visit ridefordad.ca and look for the Southern Alberta Coaldale Group. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
A new self-serve option is now available on all Lethbridge City Transit buses. The city has updated their fare collection system to include the ability to buy bus fare anywhere through the mobile app and web portal. You can also tap to pay for a single fare on a bus. An official with Lethbridge Transit believes this will make things much easier for riders who use the transit system.
We wanted to provide more options for our customers, and we're looking to increase the reliability of the equipment. We always knew that it was a little bit inconvenient, and we're looking to make it more convenient for the residents of Lethbridge. I think it's going to increase the convenience for our riders. They no longer have to go to transit or City Hall or a location. They can just do everything online.
As for bus fares themselves, officials say they're not changing. Customers can still use their existing Breeze cards, but they need to be upgraded by October the 1st. There are many options when it comes to enjoying a weekend getaway in southern Alberta. A favorite road trip destination is the Crow's Nest Pass, and it's no wonder with all of its amazing hiking trails, gorgeous views, and rich history such as the Frank Slide. Joey Ambrosi with the Frank Slide Interpretive Centre does have a tip, however, if you encounter some wildlife and how to protect yourself against bears.
Bear spray, which has come along in the last 20 years, is a good thing to have. The thing to remember with bear spray, I learned that, of course, it's good from about 2 to 5 feet away. So it's a last resort. I've heard stories of people who think bear spray is like mosquito spray and you put it on yourself and you spray yourself with pepper spray, but that's not the way that works. And if you're spraying something that's 20 or 30 feet away, it probably blows away in the wind and doesn't do anything. It's kind of a last resort. and it will work. You sort of stop the bear in his track, has trouble breathing and seeing, and you got about half an hour to get away from there.
The Frank Slide Interpretive Center is open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. 3 people from Edmonton are facing human trafficking charges following an investigation by Alert. Police say it began back in May of this year when a 17-year-old Saskatchewan girl was lured to Edmonton to work in the sex industry. Through their investigation, Alert was able to identify a second teen who was lured from British Columbia. A third teenager who was 19 was also allegedly being groomed by the suspects. On June 28th, police raided 2 homes in Edmonton. Various electronic devices were seized, along with 2 loaded handguns, around $50,000 in cash, and 90 grams of cocaine. 29-year-old Chris Musheni, 22-year-old Lauren Wise, and 30-year-old Dempsey Lorquette Mara face numerous human trafficking charges. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, an investigation there has led to 5 people being charged in sexual abuse cases involving kids within the Jehovah's Witness community.
All 5 men had the trust of the victims and their families. And all 5 men were members of the Jehovah's Witness congregation, and many of them gained access to their victims through this organization.
The gunman who opened fire at a Texas Walmart in February of 2019, killing 23 people, has been given 90 consecutive life sentences. 24-year-old Patrick Crusius was handed a life sentence for each of the 90 charges laid against him, half of them being federal hate crimes. Police say the shooter drove more than 600 miles from his home near Dallas to specifically target Hispanic people in the border city of El Paso.
It's good that this is over, so that way we can start with the state and he can start serving what he's paying for what he's done. Nothing that he can say or that his lawyers can say is going to bring my son, the families that lost that day, the innocent people that got affected that day.
Wow. Well, here's some good news. The San Diego Zoo introduced a new baby red panda for the first time in 17 years late last week. Zoo officials say the population of red pandas has decreased by quite a bit over the past 5 decades, so this was definitely a welcome sight for many, including tourists. The species is considered endangered. Zoo officials say the 4-week-old unnamed panda will nurse from their mother for about 13 to 22 weeks. They begin becoming more active and start to explore the surroundings around 6 to 7 weeks of age. So adorable. While we were above average high for this time of year, which is around 25 degrees in southwestern Alberta, and a bit of a reprieve may be on the way in the form of moisture. A full look at the weather picture is coming up. Well, it was sunny and hot again today in Lethbridge. Angela Stewart is now with a full look at the forecast. Angela, may cool down a little on Tuesday as there's a good chance of some moisture moving into our region here.
Yeah, so there is a very good chance that Lethbridge will see some rain. There is a risk of a thunderstorm, and also keep in mind that Lethbridge is now under a severe thunderstorm watch. So we're not at a warning just yet, but we are at a watch. As I mentioned, a thunderstorm carrying into tomorrow, about a 60% chance that we will see some rain. 25 the high for tomorrow, and then as the rest of the week carries on, we're going to be sitting at those mid-20s with some partly cloudy skies as the week goes on. 26, 24 for Wednesday, Thursday, and then 27, 25, 28 mix of sun and cloud for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Our average high for this time of year is 25 degrees. Our average low is 10. The highest temperature was a balmy 39 degrees back in 1973. Lowest temperature was 5 degrees back in 1997. Our sun rose at 5:35 this morning, expected to set at 9:38. That'll put us at about 16 hours and exactly 8 minutes of daylight. Temperatures across the country for Tuesday now. Going to be quite windy near the Wanda Fuca Strait near the water, sometimes gusting to 60 at times. 22 the high in Vancouver, 20 for Victoria for tomorrow. Edmonton, Calgary, going to be gloomy and wet expected for tomorrow. 24 the high, 17. There is also a risk of a thunderstorm in Calgary, and they are also under a severe thunderstorm watch as well. 24, nothing to complain about in Saskatoon for tomorrow. Lots of sunshine there. 20 degrees in Regina. Some mixed cloud coverage, going to be kind of hazy throughout the day as well. Winnipeg, rest of the prairies, 24 degrees and lots of sunshine. To our friends in the central part of the country now, going to be gloomy and wet a majority of the week. And as for tomorrow, Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal, there is rain in the forecast, risk of a thunderstorm in some areas. Those high 20s even reaching 30 degrees at times. Atlantic Canada, kind of the same deal. Going to be very wet all across the board, basically. Those low to mid 20s, 22, 20, 21, and 14 for St. John's. That is expected for tomorrow. And that is your full weather forecast.
A new report says 52% of Canadians are $200 away from not being able to pay all of their bills at the end of each month. The result from insolvency firm MNP says that's up 6% from July. It comes as higher interest rates and a rising cost of living have stretched budgets. The agency's consumer debt index fell to 83 points compared with 89 points in April as Canadians expressed a more negative attitude toward their personal finances and debt. Coca-Cola Canada Bottling Limited says it will be investing $70 million into a new state-of-the-art 60,000 square foot warehouse in Northeast Calgary. Company officials say it will be built by the company's distribution center and manufacturing facility on 23rd Street Northeast. They say it will house around 19,000 pallets of beverages. The investment is the latest development for Calgary's 400 Coca-Cola employees, many of whom walked off the job a couple of years ago over wage and scheduling issues. The job action only lasted a couple of weeks, however, when workers and the company agreed to a 9% wage boost back in April of 2021. Workers also received an increase in severance and scheduling flexibility. West Fraser Timber is selling its unbleached softwood kraft pulp mill in Hinton, Alberta to Mondi Group for $5 million US. Company officials say Mondi will also invest 400 million euros on expanding the facility. Mondi wants to add a 200,000 ton per year kraft paper machine, which is expected to be up and running by the year 2027. West Fraser will continue to supply fiber to the mill in Hinton under a long-term contract. Transat AT signed a deal to sell a piece of land in Mexico to resort company Finest Resorts. The price tag is $38 million US. It is part of the travel company's plan to focus on its airline business as it tries to make profits following more than 2 years' worth of losses. The sale is expected to close in Transat's fourth quarter. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 8 points on the day to finish at 19,822. The Dow was up 209 points to 33,944. The S&P 500 was up 10 on the day to 4409, and the Nasdaq was up 24 points to 13,685. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 69 cents to 73.17 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 8 cents to 266 US. Gold was up 35 cents to 1925.40 US an ounce, and silver was up 5 cents to 23.13 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $11.29 per bushel, barley's at $9.25, canola's at $17.75, and corn is at $9.98 per bushel. Live cattle August contract was up 20 cents to $177.20. Feeder cattle August contract was up 83 cents to $246.25, and lean hogs were down 20 cents to $98.80. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 75.31 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is promising to more than double the size of our country's contribution to a NATO mission in Latvia. The PM is committing $2.6 billion in funding over the next 3 years and up to 2,200 Canadian troops. Around 800 Canadian Armed Forces members are already part of the Canada-led battle group in the Baltic nation, making it our country's largest overseas mission. Our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, will join us momentarily to discuss if we're any closer to seeing an end to the war in Ukraine or even a ceasefire. The Russian invasion took place 17 months ago. Listen, if you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. This summer, the Lethbridge Shakespeare Performance Society returns to the outdoor theater with Shakespeare in the Park. This year, they present one of William Shakespeare's most famous comedic plays with a 60s spin called The Taming of the Shrew. Come for an evening of fun and laughter on Thursday, July 13th at Legacy Park with the play beginning at 7 p.m. Discover homegrown produce and homemade products at the Downtown Farmers Market at Festival Square in Lethbridge. Every Wednesday beginning at 9 a.m. until September, you'll find many local vendors selling fresh fruit and vegetables, delicious baked goods, homemade soaps, and so much more. Enjoy the relaxing atmosphere and support local producers and artisans at the same time. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.